Hare Krishna everyone. Welcome to our program, our classes on Nectar of Devotion, which is a summary study by ISKCON's founder Acharya A.C. Bhaktivedanta Shila Prabhupada. So today we will be having our discussion on chapter number 1. The title of chapter number 1 in the Nectar of Devotion book is Characteristics of Pure Devotional Service. And today is our third class on this topic. The first class was on the preface, second class was on the introduction of the book, and today we are now entering into a more detailed topics of the book, and we'll be starting from chapter 1. Okay, let me also now invite Anupama Mataji from Pune to kindly lead us on the Mangala Charan prayers. Mataji, please help us. Thank you.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna.
Om Ajnanatimirandhasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshuruna Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamahyam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yutpadakamalam Shri Gurum Vaishnavanshacha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadhutam Parijana Sahitam Shri Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhan Vitanshacha He Krishna Karuna Sindho Dina Bandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vancha kalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhubhya eva cha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasadi Gauravakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare.
Okay, Anupama-ji, thank you very much. Very nicely chanted the Mangala Charan prayers. Very clear pronunciation. Nice reading of the Sanskrit. Thank you. And now I would like to invite Dr. Ishwar Singh ji from Rohtak. Prabhuji, please help us and take us through the summary of previous class. Can you hear me, Dr. Ishwar Prabhu? Prabhuji, you are muted. Your microphone is muted.
Okay, yes, sorry, I am sorry.
No, koi baat nahi.
Good evening and Hare Krishna to all friends. I am really grateful to Prabhuji for giving me yet another opportunity to present this recap and summary of previous class held on Sunday last, and that was about the introduction to this great book, Nectar of Devotion. The book Nectar of Devotion, as you all know, and that we are currently studying, is a very significant, a sublime and a complete work on the science of Bhakti Yoga, at least for those who are interested in attaining God consciousness. Although it is only a summary study of the original book, it is nevertheless resplendent with exactitude and essence of Madhurya Bhakti, Bhakti Rasa, as enunciated by Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhuji. And taking a cue from the urgings of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhuji to Rupa and other Goswamis of Vrindavan, Srila Prabhupada also decided to write this book, Nectar of Devotion. And as is customary, Srila Prabhupada undertakes to introduce this great work with Mangala Charan, that is invoking auspiciousness, seeking to attain opulent objective paying obeisances and offering benediction to humanity. Now, beginning with the introduction proper, beginning with Mangala Charan from paragraph 1, I would like to state that here in paragraph 1, Prabhupada condenses the first 12 verses of Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu into the introduction of Nectar of Devotion. He very amply states that Lord Sri Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He is the cause of all causes. He is the reservoir of all rasas, all 12 rasas, relationships, has a supremely blissful form. He is the destroyer of all sins and a bestower of all bliss. He excels all in glory. Such is his aroma and radiations that he attracts gopis of all hues of devotion. Taraka and Palika were controlled by him. Shamala and Dalita are accepted as equals by him, and he gives maximum pleasure to the closest love, Radhika Rani, through excellent qualities. In Madhuri Rasa that we are talking about, he acts as Krishna of Vrindavan only, forgetting the Krishna of Dwarika and Kurukshetra. He acts a perfect friend, a lover, and a well-wisher, and therefore it is totally true if we call him Akila Rasamrita Murti. He is actually completely filled with rasa sweetness, and that sweetness is responsible for attracting all living beings. Srila Rupa Goswami is therefore not unduly moved when he pays obeisances to the Lord. Moving to the next paragraph, Rupa Goswami also very sincerely offers his obeisances to the founder of Krishna conscious movement, Sri Chaitanya Deva, being a very humble and devoted disciple. Continuing the Vaishnava tradition, Srila Prabhupada also offers obeisances to his predecessors Rupa Goswami and Siddhartha Saraswati Thakur. In the next paragraph, as part of Mangala Charan, Sri Rupa Goswami very reverentially includes his elder brother and guru, Sri Sanatana Goswami, in his obeisances and prayers, saying, may this Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu always serve as a transcendental recreation hall, Vishrama Mandira of my Lord Guru Sanatana Goswami for his pleasure. In the next paragraph, that is the fourth one, he further expands the realm of Mangala Charan by including Vaishnava Vandana, saying that those who are frolicking in the sweet ocean of Bhakti Rasa need not fear the net of time. They are like Makara fishes, king among fishes as we also know them, which ignore the insignificant rivers of liberation as exhibited and propagated by the impersonalists and karma kandis. And hence I offer my obeisances to such great Vaishnavas, such great Bhaktas. In the paragraph 5, Rupa Goswami prays to Sanatana Goswami for protecting Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu from Mimanshakas, that is, Jnanis and Karmis. He compares them with just the harmless, insignificant volcanic fires in the middle of ocean. He further, in paragraph 6, Rupa Goswami reveals his true humility, calls himself unequal and unfit for the task undertaken. Also exhorts other preachers of Krishna conscious movement to remain humble and down to earth. always and ever. Srila Prabhupada also echoes similar sentiments, saying that our preachers should consider themselves very lucky. They should remain simple instruments in the line of disciplinic succession. They follow their gurus and prove themselves worthy of being beneficial to suffering humanity. Coming to paragraph 7, which corresponds to Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu's chapter 1, verse 7, 8 and 9. In this para, we are told about the divisions of Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. The 4 divisions, east, west, north, south, and in the present context, we shall know about the eastern division, which has 4 waves or chapters dealing with 4 types of bhakti: Samanya Bhakti, Sadhana Bhakti, Bhava Bhakti, and Prema Bhakti. Also, herein we are made aware of the introductory remark for chapters 1 of Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, where we decipher the unique characteristics of pure devotional service. That is Uttama Bhakti Lakshanam, just to establish the supreme position of Bhakti in this context. Moving to paragraph 8, which corresponds paragraph 8 to paragraph 22, which corresponds with the Bhakti Rasamrita chapter 1 and also the verse 11. Paragraph 8 to 22 of Nectar of Devotion is devoted to a very important and significant verse of Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. It inter alia states that one should render transcendental loving service to Supreme Lord Sri Krishna very favorably and totally devoid of hostility, and without desire for material profits through fruitive activities or philosophical speculations. That is called pure devotional service. It has in its fold primary characteristics as stated above and some secondary characteristics that need to be cultivated following in the footsteps of previous acharyas. Krishna Anushilanam. This also has two components: active component, which is served by body, mind, and words, and inactive component, like avoiding some wrong practices. However, Krishna Anusilanam must include Krishna, all his expansions, or persons related to Sri Krishna as gurus and perhaps Uttam devotees also. Desh Bhakti, however, is not approved under this definition. Also, we must know of Anukulana, areas that include attitude and intention. Our attitude and intention must be favorable to Krishna if we wish to progress. It should be ideally Anukulana plus Krishna Anusilanam. That is, both attitude and our desire and our action must be pleasing to Lord Sri Krishna. Another very important ingredient of pure bhakti is the absence of abhilasha, that means desire, and abhilashita, which is just a tendency to desire. A temporary, circumstantial, and self-preservative abhilashita can be considered in the fold of pure bhakti, not otherwise. What we must also know here is jnana, karma, adi, anavratam. The specifics here to be noted for avoidance are: number 1, philosophical speculation, fruitive activities, etc. Number 2, jnana, cultivating jnana about impersonal Brahman. Next is karma, nitya and naimitya karmas done in varnashrama, like that is charity, vratas, shraddha, etc. Next is adi, that is practices such as yajna, sacrifices, renunciation, vairagya, yoga, that is mysticism, and sankhya, that is analysis. Next is anavartam, nitya karma done with absolute faith, but out of fear of sin, is a covering on bhakti. Devotees doing nitya karma to teach common people is not a covering as such. Now, moving on to the final paragraph, which corresponds to verse 12 of Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. Here, the author finally finds solace and strength, additional strength, in defining bhakti from another highly acclaimed Krishna devotee and writer of Narada, Pancharatra. Says Narada is one with Rupa Goswami and Prabhupada on the essence and boundaries of pure devotional service. So the authors feel very well rewarded and they are very happy as their stance, their enthusiasm and hard work gets a further boost through an important and scholarly vindication by as exalted a write-up as Narada Pancharatra. Thank you very much, dear devotees. Thank you very much, Prabhuji, for this beautiful opportunity. I am happy to finish the same. Thank you.
Thank you, Prabhuji. That was very nicely done. I really appreciate. It was very smooth, and at times I realized that you had expressed your own personal impression also while explaining the class, and everywhere where you have mentioned all the bullet points were very, very to the point and very nicely covered, well within the time boundaries. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Thank you very much.
Okay. Now we will move to the class today, and we will move the discussion to the related to the class today. And in the previous class, I realized, and today also Manish Prabhu had made a remark in the beginning before we started the class, that this sounds to be like a very technical book. Yes, indeed, it's a very technical book full of definitions. And when we are talking of definitions, we are talking about like Prabhupada used to call it like a law book of ISKCON, law book of ISKCON, or you can say a law book of Bhakti, complete science of Bhakti. So when you're talking about science, then we are bound to have definitions, because science means very accurate. It is not something we should be a little bit confused about how we define things in science. So similarly, in Bhakti also, in Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu also, you will find lots and lots of definitions. And today also you will see definitions. And like in the beginning, in the summary, what Ishwar Prabhu has mentioned about the definition of Bhakti. So I would suggest that devotees to kindly do a good thorough study of the definition of Bhakti, what is being mentioned. I did realize that while explaining Jnana, Karma, Anavritam, Ishwar Prabhu was a little theoretical there, and it is possible that the devotees might not understand those aspects very deeply. There were a lot of question answers in the previous class on the aspect about what do we do if we do a Karva Chauth Vrata, or some practice like that, or offer Shraddha. So what should be done and not. So here the previous class, I think the discussion should help you to understand. If you are not able to understand, always please kindly approach for a discussion. And certainly we will have more discussion when we will organize a quiz. and clarify all the concepts very nicely. So because devotees are finding it a little bit challenging to grasp the book, preface probably was okay, but introduction with all these definitions and little technical aspects, there might be some feeling that it is a little complicated, but we will try to do a little effort today to make things a little simple. And in first 8-10 slides today, we will get a good overview of Bhakti Samrat Sindhu. Overview means looking from a very, say for example, 10,000 feet. How does this complete book look like? What are various sections? What exactly is there in the book? About other parts also of the book, like western section, southern section, and northern section. What are the contents of the book? How it is organized, and like that. So that should give you a good flavor of what the book is, and should help release some confusion about the book. So we have already covered this in the previous class, but just to start the discussion, there are 4 divisions of Bhakti Samrat Sindhu, and east, west, north, and south. So why east, west, north, and south? Because we are talking about a Sindhu. Sindhu means ocean, and ocean is a water body, and a water body is divided into 4 directions. So east direction, west direction, north direction, and south direction. So it is a little bit creative, because we are talking about rasa. Rasa is not very technical. Rasa is something which we find some relish, which we find some taste in the rasa. So he's not calling part 1, part 2, part 3, part 4, but he is calling, Urup Goswami is calling, this is a Sindhu, and the Sindhu ocean is divided into 4 parts, 4 directions: eastern direction, western direction, northern direction, and the southern direction. Like that, he has divided the book. Similarly, for each of these divisions, eastern, western, southern, western, and northern, there are chapters in each of these parts: part 1, part 2, part 3, part 4. So part 1 has chapters, part 2 has chapters, part 3 has chapters, like that. So part 1 we are calling Eastern Division. So Eastern Division has 4 chapters, which he is calling as waves. So like ocean has 4 sides, and each side have its waves. So Eastern Division has 4 waves. So one is first chapter is Samanya Bhakti. So we will start our discussion on Samanya Bhakti today. So from the perspective of discussion, you can understand where we will do the discussion today. We will do the discussion on this topic. Then Sadhana Bhakti, Bhav Bhakti, and Prem Bhakti, chapter 2, chapter 3, chapter 4, or you can call it wave 1, 2, 3, and 4. Similarly, there will be a Southern Division, which is book number 2, or part number 2 of this book. The subject matter covered in this book is components of rasa. Components of rasa means we discussed the word rasa in our first class when we talked about the preface of the book. So rasa means the taste, the mellow that we get in doing some activity. For example, when we play cricket, we get some taste. When we go for our office, we do our office work, we get some taste. So taste of playing cricket is different from taste of doing office work. Similarly, in relationships also, we are dealing with our parents, we are dealing with our children, we are dealing with our wife, we are dealing with our friends. It will have different tastes. So in the second book, or the second part of the book, components of rasa has been further analyzed. Rasa has been further analyzed. What exactly you mean by rasa? So the Sanskrit word I am mentioning here, vibhava, anubhava, satvika bhava, vyabhichari bhava, and sthai bhava. So we will discuss about these things later on when the right time comes. We will briefly discuss about these things in the class, but not now. So for the time being, put it on hold. Then the third division is Western division. In the Western division, we are talking about primary rasas. So we also had a slide in the previous class about primary rasas. And these rasas are Shanta, Preeti, Preyo, Vatsala, and Madhura. So Shant means neutrality. There is neutrality, I would say. There is no specific inclination towards any rasa. There's neutral rasa. Preeti, this is also same as Dasya. Dasya means servitude. And the example of servitude can be given Lord Hanumanji, like he would serve Lord Ram. So Hanumanji had a relationship with Lord Ram. And that relationship had a rasa, had a taste. What was the taste? That taste was of a servitude, like a servant will have with his master. Similarly, Preyo. Preyo, another word is Sakhya. So Preeti and Preyo are the words used by Rup Goswami. But generally we understand this Preeti Rasa as Dasya and Preyo Rasa as Sakhya. So Sakhya Rasa is the example given is Arjuna and Krishna. So Arjun also had a relationship with Lord Krishna, but that was different from what Hanumanji had with Lord Ram. Both were devotees, but the rasa was different between Arjuna and Krishna. That was Sakhya Rasa. Then Vatsala. Vatsala is parenthood. So Mother Yashoda's example, Nanda Maharaj example can be given. Mother Devaki, Vasudev Maharaj, they have parental relationship with Krishna. These are also devotees or elderly gopis of Vrindavan. They also have this kind of a parental effect or parental liking towards Krishna or relationship with Krishna. Madhura. Madhura, this is a conjugal relationship, like we have Radharani having relationship with Lord Krishna in a conjugal relationship, in a loving relationship, like a husband and a wife have a loving relationship. So that kind of a mood and rasa is there. So these are primary rasas. Secondary rasa we discussed in the previous class. Hasya means laughter. Adbhuta means astonishment. Veera ras means chivalry, means bravery. Karuna means compassion. Raudra ras means anger. Bhayanak ras means fear. Bhay, the word bhayanak has the word bhay, which means fear. It invokes fear in the heart. Then bibhatsa. Bibhatsa means ghastliness. And then there are two more. These are the 7 secondary rasas. The first 7 bullets you see here, these are 7 secondary rasas. And there is also a discussion about Maitri, Vairi, Sthiti. Maitri and Vairi. Maitri and Vairi means incompatible mellows, incompatible rasas. So one rasa not getting compatible with another rasa. So that's Maitri, Vairi, Sthiti. Then Rasa Bhas. Rasa Bhas means distorted mellows. When the rasa is not complete, it is distorted. That is what is being discussed in Rasa Bhas. So these are the themes and the subject matter of each of these parts of the book: part 1, part 2, part 3, and part 4. And let me also show you these books on the screen. You can see this is part 1. This is part 2. This is part 3. And this is part 4. And if you see from the side, you can get a sense or idea of how voluminous each of these parts are. So primarily in this course, we are going to discuss mainly part 1, which is the Eastern division. These are covered by Srila Prabhupada in 19 chapters in Nectar of Devotion. So our focus is primarily Nectar of Devotion, but we are studying Nectar of Devotion together with Bhakti Rasamrit Sindhu. Now, a little bit about the rasas, primary rasas and secondary rasas. You might be wondering, what are these secondary rasas all about? So, what we should understand here is that the devotee's relationship with the Lord is always in primary rasa. Shanta, Dasya, Sakhya, parental, and conjugal. Vatsalya and Madhurya. There is no devotee relationship with Krishna or relationship with Krishna between devotees and Krishna in Hasya Ras, Adbhut Ras, Veer Ras, Karuna Ras, Raudra Ras, Bhayanak Ras, Bibhats Ras. No, there is no separate relationship, but that is why it is known as secondary rasas. Now, how do we then understand what is the relevance of the secondary rasa? So, this is something mainly to add flavor to the relationship. For example, Sakhyaras. Sakhyaras means that the Gopas of Vrindavan are having friendly relationship with Lord Krishna. But when these Gopas of Vrindavan see Krishna being attacked by Kaliya serpent and Krishna dancing on Kaliya serpent's hoods, because Kaliya is a very dangerous serpent. So then the friends get a bhayanak rasa. They become fearful. So this is adding flavor to the relationship. The relationship is friendliness, but to that friendliness, they get this fear, oh, Krishna might get hurt. That is the kind of, you can say, the relevance of secondary rasa. Similarly, you can extend that discussion to, say, for example, Vatsalya rasa. So Mother Yashoda has this Vatsalya rasa with Lord Krishna. But when Lord Krishna steals the butter and Mother Yashoda come to know that Krishna has stolen the butter, she gets very angry. So that is added flavor to the relationship, which means Raudra Ras. There we are, the parental relationship, Vatsalya Ras, is now getting Raudra Ras. Again, bringing one another example of Sakhya Ras, which means Madhu Mangal is one of the Gopas in Krishna Lila, who is very famous and well known for cracking jokes. He makes everyone laugh. So Madhu Mangal has a friendly relationship with Lord Krishna, but then the added flavor is Hasya Ras. So like that, this is something which is the relevance between the primary rasa and the secondary rasa. So that has been discussed in the part number 3 of the book and the part number 4 of the book. Also, when we are talking about rasa, there's also another aspect which is important here to understand with respect to the concept of rasas, and that aspect is, see, there could be two approaches to understand the absolute truth. Absolute truth is Lord Krishna. So the definition of absolute truth is the source of everything, spiritual or material, everything that comes from where, that is, we call it absolute truth. And from the scriptures, we understand who is that absolute truth. That absolute truth is Lord Krishna. So there are two approaches to understand the absolute truth. One approach is analytical approach, and the second approach is aesthetic approach. Now, what is the difference between analytical and aesthetic? For example, we have a flower. Now, flower can be studied by a botanist. When the botanist study the flower, he will differentiate between the different part of the flower. The sepal is there, the thorns are there, the pollen is there. Like that, he will analyze it. He will break down the flower into its various components, and each component he will analyze and increase his knowledge. Similarly, we can also understand the absolute truth by analytical means. For example, meditation. When we do meditation, what do? We focus on the greatness of the Supreme Lord, the vastness of the Supreme Lord, like that. So that is something, the analytical way of understanding the Supreme Lord or the absolute truth. But there is another approach, and that approach is aesthetic. Now, aesthetic approach, when we are talking about the example of flower, the poet also look at the flower, but he doesn't analyze the flower. This is the leaf, this is the thorn, this is the pollen, this is the petals, and so on. He doesn't. He talks about the beauty of the flower. He talks about the aroma coming from the flower. He talks about the emotions what happens to his emotions when he observes that flower. Sometimes that emotion invokes remembrance of his sweetheart or her sweetheart or whatever. Or sometimes the emotions are about the separation with someone, or it reminds of maybe offering flower to somebody who has been passed away, and so on. So similarly, we also talk about the absolute truth. We learn about we learn about the absolute truth in an aesthetic sense. For example, when we talk about understanding the absolute truth in the form of a lila, Mother Yashoda running after Lord Krishna, and there we are talking about, see, the Lord of the universe is being fearful of his mother, and that invokes emotions in our heart, that invokes some connection, some relationship, some rasa within our heart, some mellows within our heart about the Lord. So analytical way of understanding the absolute truth is generally dry. It is not very much pleasing to the heart, but still we can understand the absolute truth. But the rasa approach of understanding the absolute truth is filled with rasa, filled with joy, some like you see these different rasas, primary rasas and secondary rasa, and so on. So that is what we should understand. Similarly, like what we see in Srimad Bhagavatam, give you another example from Bhagavatam. So Srimad Bhagavatam starts with a verse, which is a verse with 4 lines. And in the last line, Satyam Param Dhimahi. It ends with Satyam Param Dhimahi. Satyam Param is something very similar, like is exactly same as absolute truth. Param Satya. So Satyam Param. So Krishna, Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. It starts with Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya and then ends with Satyam Param Dhimahi. So I pay my obeisances to the Supreme Lord Krishna, son of Vasudev, and who is Satyam Param, who is Param Satya, and Dhimahi, and I meditate upon him. Dhimahi means I meditate upon him. So like that, the opening verse of Bhagavatam is talking about meditation. So this is something like analytical way of understanding the absolute truth. But later on, just this is the first verse, and I think the third verse of the first chapter of Bhagavatam, it talks about Rasika, Pibam Bhagavatam Rasmalayam, Pibat Bhagavatam Rasmalayam. So the first verse is talking about analytical way, but the third verse is talking about Pibat Bhagavatam Rasmalayam. Pibat means drink. Drink means this Bhagavatam has to be drunk. Now you would wonder, how can one drink a book? Because when we drink something, we relish it, we enjoy the taste, we like it. So similarly, the author of Srimad Bhagavatam, Vyasdev, is urging us to drink Bhagavatam because it's a ras, it's a juice, it is full of nectar, it is full of relish. So the same Bhagavatam describes the absolute truth in an analytical way, and also in a poetic way, in a way which is aesthetic in nature. So what Bhakti Rasamrit Sindhu is, Bhakti Rasamrit Sindhu in Rup Goswami is something who is elaborating on Srimad Bhagavatam. So you will see when you will read Bhakti Rasamrit Sindhu, he will be quoting from Srimad Bhagavatam very often. And he is now elaborating on Srimad Bhagavatam, and he's picking up verses from Bhagavatam and adding the explanation from Rasa perspective to those verses. So that is Bhakti Rasamrit Sindhu. And Rasa is something which is not that we only experience on some occasion, but we continuously throughout our life keep on experiencing these rasas. So that is what give you a little idea of the rasa and what is Bhakti Rasamrit Sindhu. Like that, we will study in these classes. Okay, so as I mentioned to you, we will be studying this book mainly, which is the first 19 chapters of Nectar of Devotion. And today we are discussing Samanya Bhakti. the wave number 1 or chapter number 1 of this book. So in this slide, we are talking about the breakup of various components of chapter number 1. So we can divide this chapter into 3 parts: Mangala Charan, Uttama Bhakti definition, and Uttama Bhakti's 6 qualities. So we have already covered the first 10 verses in the previous class, the Mangala Charan part, where we had discussed the book's objective. We have discussed that Srila Rupa Goswami has offered his namaskar to Supreme Lord Krishna, to Supreme Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, to the spiritual master Sanatan Goswami, to the Vaishnav who he has mentioned as king of fishes, Makara fish. So all that we have discussed. This is being covered from 2nd to 4th verse of the book, the first chapter. Then benediction to the readers, that they be protected from Mimamsakas, the philosophers of Jnana and Karma and so on, that has been there. And then divisions of book like Western, Eastern, Northern, Southern, that we have discussed from verse number 7 to 10, like that. And then we also started our discussion on Uttama Bhakti, where we have discussed the definition by Srila Rupa Goswami, Anya Abhilashita Shunyam Jnana Karma Anavratam, Anukulyena Krishna Anushilanam Bhaktir Uttama. So what is Uttama Bhakti? Krishna Anushilanam. Then Krishna Anushilam should be Anukulyena. Anukulyena means favorable, both in intentions, and it should be favorable, devoid of any negative attitude towards the Lord, any hostility towards the Lord. So like that, we have discussed this definition in the previous class. It's an important verse, as we also discussed today in the summary. Then, as I mentioned to you in our beginning class, that why Srila Rupa Goswami is writing this book and what is the approach he is taking. So we mentioned to you in the preface in the class number 1 that Srila Rupa Goswami is writing this book on the order of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has mentioned that you have to establish the supremacy of pure devotional service as the essence of all the Vedic literature. So what Srila Rupa Goswami is doing is doing the same thing. He's quoting from Vedic literature and establishing the fact that whatever I'm saying is mentioned in the Vedic literature. I'm bringing that out. I'm bringing all that verses, all that references in front and establishing whatever I'm saying. So verse number 11 has been written by Rupa Goswami, but verse number 12 is the reference he is giving from where? From Narad Pancharatra. So Narad Pancharatra is a scripture written by Srila Narad Muni. So Narad Pancharatra, he's quoting. Why he's quoting? He's saying, this is the definition of pure devotional service I am giving, Uttama Bhakti's pure definition. And the same thing has been mentioned by Sri Narad Muni. Exactly the same thing I am quoting here. So that's what he's saying. Then, so till this part we had studied in our previous class number 2. But I wanted to give you a good overview of how these chapters are connected with each other, how the whole book is connected with each other. So that is why I'm doing a little bit of a repetition, but I hope that will give you at least the bird eyes overview from a maybe 10,000 feet perspective, what incompleteness this book has, where what is kept. Again, so because it's a very important verse number 11, where Srila Rupa Goswami is establishing the definition of bhakti. He gives references from Srimad Bhagavatam also, and these references he's giving like 13, 14, 15 and 16 from those verses, and these definition is giving from Srimad Bhagavatam. Okay, so we will today, what we will do is we will once again look at this verse number 12. I have rearranged the verse in a more readable form, in a form of a table, so you can better appreciate the reference. Similarly, we will read these verses from Srimad Bhagavatam. And today we will start our discussion on 6 qualities of bhaktis. So these 6 qualities are Kleshagni. Actually, it is Kleshagni, GH. I have made a spelling mistake here. Kleshagni, Shubhada, Moksha Laguta, Krit, Sudurlabha, Sandranand, Visheshatma, Shri Krishna, Akarshana, Akarshani, and conclusion. So these numbers that you see are the verse numbers from Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, the book that now I show in front of you. So this is the chapter number 1 of part number 1 of the book, and this is the whole division of little breakup of all the components of this chapter. So I had also sent you a WhatsApp message a few days back. So which are the books involved? So now you already know this book, which is the main book, Nectar of Devotion, and the book originally written by Srila Rupa Goswami is the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. This is that book on my this side. But there are other books also. So let us talk a little bit about the books involved, which will help you in the study. So the Nectar of Devotion, this book, the author is Srila Prabhupada. It is available in English and Hindi, both languages. The author of this book is Srila Prabhupada. The second book is Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. The author is Srila Rupa Goswami. And Srila Rupa Goswami has written this book in Sanskrit. But the way Srila Rupa Goswami has written this book, it is very difficult to understand the book itself by Srila Rupa Goswami. So that is why Srila Jiva Goswami has written a commentary, and his commentary is known as Durgam Sangamani Tika. Durgam Sangamani Tika. Durgam means very difficult. Sangamani means reconciling the difficult, reconciling everything means making it simple. Durgam Sangamani Tika. So this is what you see here is okay. Let me come to that point later. Commentary is by Jiva Goswami, and another commentary has been written by Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur. So there are 2 commentaries written by the acharyas on the original work that Srila Rupa Goswami has done. So one commentary is by Srila Jiva Goswami, another commentary is by Vaishnav Chakravarti Thakur, Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur. But both of these commentaries are in Sanskrit language. So English translation of those commentaries by Jiva Goswami and Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur has been written by one of our senior ISKCON leaders, a sannyasi by the name His Holiness Bhanu Swami Maharaj. He's still there. He's a Japanese, but he's a very learned scholar in Sanskrit. He has translated many such books by Vaishnava acharyas in the past. Almost, I think, 100 of them he has translated into English. All of them are available. And then what I wanted to say was, so what you see here, this book is actually the English translation of the commentaries by Jiva Goswami and Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur on the original work done by Rupa Goswami. And you will see the commentaries mainly by Jiva Goswami. Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur's, those part of the commentary are only included in this book, which is different from what Srila Jiva Goswami has given. So that is why it's a very useful book, very informative book. I do agree it is a little, it might sound and seem a little challenging because the content of the book is a little technical in nature. So it might sound a little challenging, but that is the purpose of this class. So to make these challenging concepts easier for the student. So this is 2 books. Then I would also like to introduce a 3rd book. This is called Bhakti Rasamrita Subodhini. It is not a very thick book. It is something like what you would call it as a study guide. Study guide means making the understanding of the text very simple. Subodhini. Subodh means easily we can decipher. So it's a study guide. It's authored by Gaurang Darshan Das. Gaurang Darshan Prabhu is a one of the senior devotees in our movement, young devotee, but senior in his understanding of the text and so on. He's done a very wonderful job on giving such Subodhini series books. So he has done this, made this study guide available by Gaurang Darshan Prabhu. So this is another book. Then the fourth book is called Waves of Devotion. The author is Dhanurdhar Maharaj, Dhanurdhar Swami. I have already ordered this one. I have yet to receive this book and have to examine the content of the book. Somebody mentioned that this book is also very useful to understand the this context of Nectar of Devotion. So these are the four books involved. But now you might feel very intimidated. Prabhuji, four books, one book, would that not be sufficient? And that is a genuine sentiment you might have. And I have kind of put all these books together in this one slide. This is Nectar of Devotion, then the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, Subodhini, and the Waves of Devotion. So these are the cover books. But for those feeling already intimidated, I would recommend to at least have these two books, Nectar of Devotion and Bhakti Rasamrita Subodhini. I will be preparing my slides heavily from referring from this Bhakti Rasamrita Subodhini. So you will see the similarity in the slides and what the content you will find in Bhakti Rasamrita Subodhini. It has also made my job easy to prepare slides, to bring out the real essence. So whatever essence is there in the Subodhini, in my slides, you will find essence of that essence. So the slides are even further making it short and simple and sweet. So that's what I'm trying to do. So as a minimum, devotees may like to purchase these two books. Maybe you already have this one, so you may want to purchase this one as well. And those who are the Makaras probably and have a lot of enthusiasm to read the Shastra and scripture more, for you, I leave up to your discretion if you want to purchase this book as well as this book. Okay, now let us start the chapter number 1. I'm not sure whether we will be able to complete all the slides today because I took a little more time than what I planned for the first part that I wanted to explain it to you. But I think it was important to understand the overview of this whole text and how it is arranged. So it is easy for you to follow further in the class. So this one verse, the 12th verse from chapter number 1, which is corresponding to the paragraph number 23 of the introduction part of the book, Nectar of Devotion. As I mentioned to you that Srila Rupa Goswami in verse number 11, so this is verse number 12, in verse number 11, has already given the definition of Uttama Bhakti, pure Bhakti. He has already given the definition. What he is doing in this verse number 12, he's actually quoting from he's quoting from Narad Pancharatra. He's quoting from Narad Pancharatra. Now let me tell you how he quotes from Narad Pancharatra. The way he mentions it in the book. So this is verse number 12. So the verse number 12, he says, he writes here before quoting the verse. So the verse is Sarvopadhi Vinirmuktam Tat Paratvena Nirmalam Rishikena Rishikesha Sevanam Bhakti Ruchyate. So this is the verse from Narad Pancharatra. But before quoting this verse, he says, Yatha Shri Narad Pancharatre. Yatha Shri Narad Pancharatre means, thus Narad Pancharatra says. What does it say? Sarvopadhi Vinirmuktvam Tat Paratvena Nirmalam Rishikena Rishikesha Sevanam Bhakti Ruchyate. Like that, he quotes from different scriptures, and he mentions that before the verse before he writes the verse in this book. So last time I had presented this a little bit in a way which may not have revealed the message very nicely, but here I am once again presenting it in the form of a table, and this table approach has been taken in this book Bhakti Rasamrita Subodhini. The same approach has been taken in this book. So Sarvopadhi vinirmuktam means bhakti is devoid of all upadhis. Upadhis means anya abhilashita shunyam. So this is corresponding to the 11th verse in what sense? Anya abhilashita shunyam. So upadhis actually means material desires or processes and so on. So bhakti is devoid of all upadhis. That is what sarvopadhi vinirmuktam means. Tat paratvena. Tat paratvena means the bhakti should be done for the paratvena. Para means the Supreme Lord. And who is that Supreme Lord? That Supreme Lord is Krishna. It should be done to please Lord Krishna. And what does it mean in the verse number 11? Anukulyena. It should be favorable to or pleasing to the Lord. Then nirmalam. Nirmalam means it is unobstructed by other processes. So unobstructed by other processes means jnana karma adi anavratam. Now here it is means it is devoid. So there are two things here. You see, one is anavratam. Anavratam means uncovered, and second one is devoid. Devoid means zero. Zero means there should not be no other desires, material desire. Material desire should be zero. Then unobstructed means uncovered. Uncovered means jnana should be there, but jnana for Krishna should be there. Jnana for impersonal Brahman should not be there. So uncover yourself, uncover your jnana with the jnana of Supreme Brahman or impersonal Brahman. But jnana should not be zero. Here you see jnana has not been mentioned as zero. Jnana should be uncovered. It should be purified. Like water is there and then there is impurity in the water. So the water should be there but without any impurity. So what impurity is talking about? The jnana of impersonal Brahman. Then karma, devoid of any karma or any karma kanda activities and so on. So but karma should be there. Karma means activity should be there. We should do some activity for Krishna. That is what exactly means by anushilanam. Anushilanam means some activity, some service, some seva done for Krishna. So karma cannot be zero because it involves activity. It involves anushilanam. But karma kanda should be uncovered from the karma. Like that we discussed. So and then rishikena rishikesha sevanam bhaktir uchyate. So sevanam is exactly same as anushilanam. Rishikena rishikesha sevanam bhaktir uchyate. So so for whom we should do this sevanam? For Rishikesha. Rishikesh is another name of Lord Krishna. So Lord Krishna's Rishikesh name means master of the senses. And Rishikena means with the senses. So we should serve the master of the senses with our senses, and that is known as Bhaktir Uchyate. That exactly is Bhakti. That is known as Bhakti. And that is what is understood here is by Bhaktir Uttama. That is actually Uttam Bhakti. That is pure devotional service. So like that, you can see that Rupa Goswami is giving reference from other scriptures, Vedic scriptures. And here we are studying that how these references are exactly conveying the same message as we see in the text number 11 of this chapter, which is the definition of pure devotional service or Uttam Bhakti. Now, taking this discussion forward, Srila Rupa Goswami gives another reference, and this time he gives reference from quoting 3 verses from Srimad Bhagavatam, 12, 13 and 14. But I have not quoted the full verse here. If you want to read the full verse, you have to get this book, Bhaktir Samrit Sindhu, or you can also refer this verse from Srimad Bhagavatam. You can open Bhagavatam. You can go to vedabase.com, go to canto number 3 of Srimad Bhagavatam. You can read it there also. You can purchase the Bhagavatam book as well also. So whatever way you think is good, you can learn this verse from Srimad Bhagavatam. So in these 3 verses, there are some important components which we would like to bring out for your knowledge. So one word is ahetuki. Ahetuki means bhakti is without cause, without any hetu. Hetu means some cause, some reason. So bhakti is without cause, without any hetu. And it is resembling to what? It is resembling to anya abhilashita shunyam. We should not have any abhilasha or abhilashita. That is a little detail, so we will not go into that discussion again and again. So I would say, which means it should be without any material desires. Shunyam. Ahetuki. So bhakti is without cause. Similarly, anya abhilashita shunyam. And then another word is avyavahita. Avyavahita means bhakti is not contaminated. So here we are talking about shunyam, zero. Here we are talking about contamination by jnana and karma. We discussed this in the previous slide, so we will not repeat here. So it's corresponding to jnana karmadi anavritam. Then there are also mentioned about pure devotee do not accept liberations like salokya, sarshti, sarupya, samipya, aikatvam, even if offered by the Lord. So this is an additional point mentioned in these verses from 12 to 14 in Srimad Bhagavatam, that pure devotee is not after five type of liberations. Five type of liberations like Salokya liberation, Sarshti liberation, Sarupya liberation, Samipya liberation, and Aikatvam liberation. Liberation means moksha. So what pure devotee is always interested is service to the Lord, doing devotional service to the Lord. Is not interested in liberations of these five types. Let us quickly look at it. What are these five type of liberations? Salokya liberation means residing with the Lord in the same loka. Like for example, in the spiritual sky, there are many spiritual lokas, Vaikuntha planets. So residing with the in the same Vaikuntha planet as the Lord is residing. So in the same place, in the same loka. Sarshti. Sarshti means having the same opulence as the Lord. So you will enjoy the same opulence that the Lord will have. That is Sarshti liberation. Sarupya liberation is having the same form as the Lord. So here loka means planet, same planet. Rupa means the same form. So except for one or two features, like Kaustubha Mani is there on the chest of the Lord, except for a couple of features, bodily features, you will look like exactly like the Lord. So that is called Sarupya liberation. These are actually very exalted positions, not cheap. Samipya. Samipya means becoming direct associate of the Lord, direct parshad of the Lord, direct associate of the Lord. That is called Samupya Mukti. And Aikatvam. Aikatvam means oneness with the Lord. Oneness means when you merge into the effulgence of the Lord. That is called oneness of the Lord. So, pure devotee is not interested in any of these five types of liberation. He is only interested in pure devotional service to the Lord. Now, we are now entering into the, I would say we have already entered into the first chapter. And as I would say, chapter number 1, which we are discussing today, the titled as Characteristics of Pure Devotional Service. So this reference from Srimad Bhagavatam actually is covered in paragraph number 1 and 2 of chapter number 1. So that is what is there in Nectar of Devotion in paragraph number 1 and 2. Now in paragraph number 3, Srila Prabhupada quickly summarizes the characteristics. There are 6 unique characteristics of pure bhakti, and Srila Prabhupada very succinctly, very nicely in English, he has summarized these 6 unique characteristics of pure bhakti. Let us get a high level understanding of what exactly are these 6 unique characteristics. So the first one is Kleshagni, Agni, GH. Klesh Agni. So it is not Agni. Agni means fire, and Agna means killing or destroying. Like we have Kritagna. Kritagna means you have no gratitude. You are actually a thankless person. You have killed my emotions of of gratitude. So like that, Klesh Agni, Klesh Agni. It is not Ga. Ga is Ga se Gadha. Gadha means donkey in English. And Gha se Ghata. Ghata means the clouds. So it is Gha. Klesh Agni. Klesh Agni means, Klesh means suffering, and Agni means destroying. So destroys material suffering. Shubhada. Shubhada. Da means giving. Shubha means auspicious. So Bhakti bestows auspiciousness. So we have our devotee, a very nice devotee, Rakesh Prabhu from Meerut. Rakesh Prabhu's good wife, Mataji's name is Shubhla. Shubhla means bring auspiciousness. So something very similar. Shubhda bestows auspiciousness. Then Moksha Laghuta Krit. Moksha means liberation. Laghuta means making it small. Krit means doing it. So Moksha Laghuta Krit means making the liberation appear very small, which means disregarding liberation. So considering it very, very tiny, very small in front of pure devotional service. So that is Moksha Laghuta Krit. Then Sudurlabha. Sudurlabha means it is rarely attained. Rarely attained. Sudurlabha. Sudurlabha, rarely attained. I think it is easy to understand the Hindi here. Sandranand. Sandra Anand Vishesh Atma. Sandra Anand Vishesh Atma means, Vishesh means special. Anand means bliss. And Sandra means condensed bliss. So the bliss is so much that it get condensed, and that's what you experience in the bhakti. Sandra Anand Vishesh Atma. So these are all Sanskrit words used by Srila Rupa Goswami to explain the 6 unique characteristics of bhakti. And you will see when we will study each of these unique characteristics, Srila Rupa Goswami will again follow the same approach. He will go to the Vedic literature, he will pick up verses from the Vedic literature and explain. See, I'm saying Kleshagni, and here from the Vedic scriptures we can understand how it is Kleshagni. Like that. Then Shri Krishna Akarshini. Shri Krishna Akarshini. So the name of the Lord, Shri Krishna, already means Akarshan. So the name of Shri Krishna means one who attracts everyone, all attractive. It's full of rasas, he's full of mellows. We studied in our previous class. So he attracts everyone, every living entity he attracts. But bhakti, if somebody is a devotee of the Lord, that even attracts Lord's attention towards that devotee. So it is attractive to the Lord also. Who is all attractive? Who is actually attracting everyone? Who can attract the Lord? Bhakti can attract the Lord. So this is Sri Krishna Akarshini, attracts Sri Krishna. Like that, there are 6 unique characteristics of pure bhakti. Now, we will start our discussion on Kleshagni. Kleshagni. So as I was explaining to you, Kleshagni means bhakti destroys suffering, and Klesha means suffering, and Agna means to destroy. So Klesh Agni means one which destroys the suffering. And this is covered in Bhakti Rasamrit Sindhu from verse number 18 till verse number 26. Verse number 18 till verse number 26. This topic of Klesh Agni has been discussed. In Nectar of Devotion, this topic runs from paragraph number 4 to paragraph number 15 of chapter number 1. So like that, you can go and correspond the paragraphs, how they are corresponding to the original author's writing. Okay. So as I was mentioning, let us go and open up the discussion on or go deeper into the discussion about Klesha Agni. So I mentioned to you Klesha Agni means destroys all suffering. So in verse number 18, which corresponds to paragraph number 4 of NOD, Srila Rupa Goswami describes the what are the klesha, what exactly is klesha. And he mentions that klesha is threefold. Threefold means it appears or it starts in 3 stages. It manifests in 3 stages. So the sequence is there. So what is the different aspects of threefold aspects of klesha? So one is called papam. Papam means pap. You know, who knows Hindi? People, devotees who know Hindi or who are coming from Hindi background would know pap. Probably in Kannada also it is known as pap. So papam is sinful reaction. He is not simply saying sin. In the context, in the present context, Jeev Goswami has written this commentary. He mentions, although papam means sin, but in the context, it means sinful reaction. Reaction means some pratikriya, something which you receive after doing something. It's a reaction. So papam here means sinful reaction. Then pap bijam. Pap bijam means seed of the sin. That is material desire. So if we have material desire, that actually lead us to do pap. And it is not difficult to understand. Material desire means doing something for our own enjoyment, doing for some selfish motives. So whenever we do when we are selfish, we land up doing something which is not according to the scriptures. So when we not do something according to the scriptures, according to the laws laid out by the Supreme Lord, we get some reaction. We sow some sin, we sow some seed, which will give us some reaction in the future. So pap bijam means seed of sin, which is similar as material desire. Then avidya. Avidya, why do we do material desire? Why do we go in that direction? Because we are ignorant. We don't fully understand what is right and what is wrong. That is called avidya, ignorance. So the whole threefold aspect of klesha can now be arranged into a form of a process, a chain, a sequence. How? Because we are ignorant, we are avidya, we are having avidya. We do something, we carry with ourselves in our heart material desires. And because of the material desires, we do something not very good. And that's where we sow the seed of the sin that we commit. We sow the seed of the sin that we commit. And ultimately, that seed that we have sown, we receive as sinful reaction. It comes back to us as sinful reaction. And when the reaction comes back to us, we suffer. We have klesha. We suffer. So this is what in verse number 18, corresponding to paragraph number 4, Rupa Goswami has first of all explained how this klesha manifests. Then in verse number 19, he further elaborates on this, the word papam. The word papam means sinful reaction. So in verse number 19, Rupa Goswami is further elaborating on it. He's saying that papam, sinful reaction, is of two types: aprarabdha and prarabdha. Aprarabdha means which is not yet matured, which means it has to be experienced in future life. For example, I do some activity inspired by some material desire today. We'll sow some seed. Will sow some seed, but it will not yet matured. It has not yet manifested. It is, I'm going to receive the reaction in my next life. Not yet matured, to be experienced in the future life. Similarly, this is a prarabdha papam. Then prarabdha papam. Prarabdha papam means already matured. I might have done something in my previous life, or maybe within this life also, but that has already been matured now. I'm about to receive a reaction to be experienced in present life. I have to get that reaction in the present life. That is prarabdha papam. So another way to explain, or a little more detailed way to explain, is it is awaiting distress in the future. And the example is, man committed some crime but not yet arrested. So somebody have already committed maybe a murder or a theft or maybe whatever, forgery, whatever, but he has not yet been arrested by the police. So he has committed the crime but not yet been arrested. So that is something like a prarabdha papam. But prarabdha papam means now the reaction has manifested in the life, and that reaction can manifest in different ways. It can manifest as chronic disease. Some people have some disease, maybe some kind of a problem in their health life, whatever, and it is difficult to know from where it has come, why it has come, how it has developed, difficult to know. So those kind of things are prarabdha karma. Already our sinful reaction has been manifesting in our life. Or legal implication. Sometimes we see people are legally challenged by others. They say, why for me only? मेरी जिंदगी में ये केस मुकदमा होना था क्या? मतलब sometimes people think like that. So this is mainly because they should understand it is the prarabdha karma maturing in their life. Low birth. People having low birth, maybe somebody taking a birth in a very unclean family, or very poor family, or maybe very uneducated family, something like that. So that is something, sufferings that are coming in, where you don't get a lot of facilities. Maybe your looks are not very beautiful, you are ugly in looks, your body is deformed, like that. So that is something which is the prarabdha karma. So that has been mentioned in verse number 19, corresponding to verse paragraph 4 and 5. Then in verse number 20, Shila Rup Goswami is saying, Bhakti is aprarabdha haratvam. Bhakti is aprarabdha haratvam. So whatever aprarabdha pap you have done, maybe you have done now, about to manifest in sinful reaction in your next life. So aprarabdha haratvam means Bhakti destroys aprarabdha karma or aprarabdha papam, aprarabdha sin. It destroys aprarabdha sin. And here he gives reference from Srimad Bhagavatam 11th canto. And in Srimad Bhagavatam 11th canto, what has been discussed? It is Lord Krishna speaking to Uddhav, his devotee Uddhav. What Krishna is saying: Krishna Bhakti is like a blazing fire that can burn to ashes all the fuel of sinful activities supplied to it. So all the fuel of sinful activities supplied to it. So Lord Krishna himself is mentioning to Uddhav, Bhakti is like a blazing fire that destroys everything. So aprarabdha haratvam. Reference from Srimad Bhagavatam. Then in the next two verses, in 21 and 22, which is corresponding to these paragraphs in Nectar of Devotion 7 and 8, he mentions another statement. Now this time he says prarabdha haratvam. Bhakti destroys prarabdha sins also, prarabdha activities also, or prarabdha material activities also. Then he gives two references from Srimad Bhagavatam. What he says? He gives one reference from 3rd canto, another reference from 11th canto. And as I mentioned to you, he mentions that briefly in the beginning of the verse, and it's good to understand how he quotes Srimad Bhagavatam. So verse number 21, he says, prarabdha haratvam yatha tritiye. He says yatha tritiye. Tritiye means like what is mentioned in the Srimad Bhagavatam canto number 3. He doesn't even bother to mention Srimad Bhagavatam. Tritiya itself means Srimad Bhagavatam. So here's the proof of destroying prarabdha reaction from the 3rd canto of Bhagavatam. Yatha tritiye. Similarly, for verse number 22, he says, verse number 22, actually this second reference is coming from the commentary of Shila Jiva Goswami. It is not coming from the reference given by Rup Goswami. This reference is coming from the commentary, the second one. The first one is coming from Rupa Goswami. So what he's saying, what this verse in Bhagavatam is saying, even a person born in the family of dog eaters, it's a low birth. Immediately, I have highlighted this immediately in green for a reason, and you will come to know this reason later in the slides. Even a person born in the family of dog eaters immediately becomes eligible to perform Vedic sacrifices if he once utters the holy name of the Lord or chants about him. So a low birth like a dog eater can be elevated to do Vedic sacrifices. Vedic sacrifices are done by Brahmanas, and that's a very high level of birth. You get that spiritual inclination, you get that intelligence in that birth, so that you can further progress and do the devotional or spiritual activities. Your body, your inclination, your mind, your intelligence, everything is favorable to do these kind of activities. So how is this possible? Unless and until the bhakti is destroying our past reactions, our papam, it is not possible. Huh? So it is saying even a birth born in a family of dog eaters immediately at once becomes eligible to perform Vedic sacrifices if he once utters the holy name, he chants the holy name of the Lord, or and chants about him. Then devotional service, this second reference, as I mentioned, is coming from the commentary by Srila Jiva Goswami. Devotional service fixed on me purifies even the dog eaters from the contamination of their low birth. So this is coming from 11th canto. So like that, you can see how Rupa Goswami is giving references together with Jiva Goswami in the commentary, how bhakti can destroy aprarabdha papam and prarabdha papam. Okay, coming to the final verse of the class today. Maybe there will be a couple of slides on this, 2-3 slides. Now he is quoting from Padma Purana. He is quoting from Padma Purana. Now he only quoted from Bhagavatam. Now he is quoting from Padma Purana. What he is saying, what is written in Padma Purana, very interesting verse. Aprarabdha phalam papam kutam bijam phalonmukham krameneva praliyate Vishnu bhakti ratatmanam Vishnu bhakti ratatmanam. So he's saying from Padma Purana, the verse says 4 types of effects of sinful acts are there. 4 types of effects are there. Aprarabdha kutam bijam phalon mukham. Aprarabdha kutam bijam phalon mukham. Then kramenaiva praliyate. Krama means sequence, one by one. And that is translated as gradually, one by one. Kramenaiva praliyate. Praliyate means destroyed. Gradually destroyed for those who are engaged in bhakti. Vishnu bhakti ratatmanam. Vishnu bhakti ratatmanam. Rat means steeped. Rati means rat. Rat hona. Just like we have this, our country's name is Bharat. So Bha comes from Bhaskar, sun, and Rat means full of light, full of knowledge. Light means knowledge. Bharat. So Bharat word means land which is full of knowledge. That is the meaning of word Bharat. Similarly, Vishnu Bhakti Ratatmanam. Ratatmanam. So one who is fully engaged, Rat in Bhakti. Bhakti Rat. Vishnu Bhakti. His sins, which are of 4 types, aprarabdha, kutam, bijam, and phalonmukham, it is gradually destroyed. Now you remember in the previous verse, I pointed you to immediately. And this verse is saying gradually. So gradually and immediately. One verse is saying immediately destroyed, and another verse is saying gradually destroyed. So why this contradiction? We will talk a little bit about it. But first of all, we try to understand aprarabdha, kutam, bijam, and phalonmukham. Now, I will try to make life simple for you. Here you see aprarabdha, and that's aprarabdha is same aprarabdha that we studied in the previous verse. We studied in the previous verse aprarabdha and prarabdha. Papam is sinful reaction, and aprarabdha papam and prarabdha papam, which we studied in the previous verse. So here aprarabdha and phalonmukham is same. Aprarabdha and phalonmukham is same. But two additional stages have been added in between just to add detail, or this detail is there in Padma Purana. Although Srila Rupa Goswami, when he has mentioned in that verse, he has quoted only aprarabdha and phalonmukham, but in order to support his statement, he is quoting a verse from Padma Puran which actually provides a little more detail than simply aprarabdha and prarabdha. So aprarabdha is sinful reaction that are not to be experienced in present life, that we studied. And phalonmukham means, phala means reaction is already, it has become a mukh. It has come already, it has manifested. Phalonmukham, it has become unmukh. It has become already matured and being experienced presently in the present life. But here, kutam means what? Sinful reactions about to become bijam. So in these sinful reactions, these aprarabdha sinful reactions are infinite, and they are coming in our life from eternity. Because we are eternal souls, these type of reactions we have been living in many lives, multiple lives, infinite number of lives. So aprarabdha sinful reactions are eternal and infinite. So they have not been experienced so far, multiple lives. But among those sinful reactions, some reactions have now about to become bijam, about to become a seed. Then bijam here means sinful reaction about to be experienced. It is about to be experienced. It has not yet come, but about to be experienced. And phalonmukham means this bija has become a phal. It has become a fruit. It has already become a manifest. You have already tasted that reaction now in the present life. That is phalonmukham, which is same as prarabdha. So like that, you can understand these four stages. So from Rupa Goswami perspective, what he has done is he has kind of clubbed up prarabdha and kutam together, calling it one word as aprarabdha, and phalonmukham or prarabdha as together with bijam, and calling it only as prarabdha in the previous verse. So, but since he is quoting from Padma Puran, a little more detail you can understand from this verse. Now some fine points. We discussed about this word immediate versus gradual. So immediate is saying that the sins are immediately destroyed, verse number 21, but verse number 23 is saying it is gradually destroyed. How do we understand that? So here Srila Jiva Goswami in his commentary has explained this in a very sweet way. He's saying these are destroyed like a needle pierces 100 lotus leaves. So if you have 100 lotus leaves, one placed over the other, one placed over the other in a stack, and there is a needle, and you pierce the needle in that stack of leaves. So how will the needle go through the leaves? First of all, the leaf number 1 will be pierced, then the second, then the third, then the fourth, then the fifth, then the sixth, and then the 100th one, right? So it is gradual in that sense. But since the petals are so soft, once you pierce the needle, it immediately reaches to the last petal, 100th petal. In that sense, it is instant. And this is actually known in our scriptures as Kamal Patra Shat Ved Nyaya. Nyaya means logic. So there is a branch of knowledge known as Nyaya Shastra. So in that Nyaya Shastra, there is a logic called Kamal Patra Shat Ved Nyaya. And these sutras, these Nyaya Sutras are actually giving concepts. And this is the concept, what we just discussed. So it is gradual also, but it is so fast that it can be called as instant also. Yeah? So this is something kind of a reconciliation between what is immediate and gradual destruction of sinful reaction. And you can also relate to the sinful reactions with the help of an example of disease. Like for example, we get a disease. Like few days ago, I got corona, COVID, but I don't know from whom I got this corona. Similarly, when these sinful reactions manifest in our life, we don't know from where it is coming, from which lifetime it is coming. So and then another feature is these disease does not happen all of a sudden. So I might have got contacted with some coronavirus in some point of time, and then it would have entered in my body and have started to grow or manifest and so on. So it does not happen all of a sudden. Similarly, our sinful reaction does not manifest all of a sudden. It takes some time. Then, as I mentioned, cause is difficult to ascertain. Where it originated, how it is maturing, it is difficult to ascertain. Then similarly, sinful reactions are subtle, uh, take time to manifest, cannot ascertain of the cause and the fruition. So a disease analogy can also be given for these sinful reactions. Like we cannot ascertain the disease, it does not happen all of a sudden. Similarly, sinful reaction also manifest in our life in a similar way. Now I think we are coming to the final slide of the today's class, which is verse number 23, final explanation as in paragraph 9th and 10th. Here we see in verse number 23, the word bijam is coming, and the same word bijam has been coming in verse number 20. So because of the context, Srila Jiva Goswami mentioned that the meaning of the word bijam in these two verses slightly different. So papa bijam, in the previous verse we talked about material desires that make us perform sinful activities. So that is papa bijam. But here in the verse number 23, the meaning of the word bijam is sinful reactions nearing fruition. So the stage number 3, before phalonmukam, that bijam stage is there. So that is the additional detail here. And with that, I would like to close the class today. All glories to the Nectar of Devotion. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Questions, takeaways, and comments. Thank you very much. Happy to know, did you find the class resolving your doubts? Do you feel a little comfortable today hearing the class, or still you think it is too difficult to digest? Please let me know. Thank you.
Hare Krishna.
Yes, Prabhuji, Hare Krishna.
Dandavat.
Dandavatji.
Very interesting, very difficult, excellent, but most difficult. Difficult to remember names, difficult to remember titles, difficult to remember sequences. But
Yeah.
I have a very simple answer to this class. If you permit me, I'll make it clear to my satsangis and to my guru.
Yes,
See,
Prabhuji.
it's all is game of karma. So karma has few definitions. Like one is akarma, vikarma, sukarma. But second definition is which fits into this. Kriyaman karma, sanchit karma. Kriyaman karma is every action has got equal and opposite reaction. Sanchit karma means collective karma. We do few things like I want to attend this class. So I make myself ready, make the link on, and then I get into the class. Then third is the prarabdha, which is you made it clear today. They are of two, prarabdha and aprarabdha. So all those things which we get future life, which you explained today, they are a result of aprarabdha and prarabdha. Aprarabdha is we don't get manifest in this life. Prarabdha is which they get manifest in this life. So this is what is a big, it took me a few years to run around to get the meaning of prarabdha. So I'm born in this family, I'm born in that. As you made it so clear today, that even in being born in, dog-eating family, or in a low family, ignorant family, if we get a proper environment, ISKCON environment, and if we get a proper teacher, it all changes. In some gradually, in most of the people gradually, in few excellently, immediately, suddenly.
Yeah, okay. Thank you, Prabhuji. Yes, nice.
Jai Guruji and
Hare Krishna. Yes.
Hare Krishna.
Okay. Yeah, I also see another comment by Sunanda Mataji. Actually, it's a question. Not sure Sunanda Mataji is still there on the call. Let me check. Yes, she's there. If we do not know the cause of sinful reaction, how to avoid them? Is it only from bhakti? Yes. So the message is, there may be a lot of sinful reactions from the past, but the nature of pure devotional service, Uttama Bhakti, like what we have discussed in our definition, if we do that pure devotional service, we are removing those sinful reactions from the past in our lives. So the answer is yes. And the another detail is that generally we are not falling into the category of pure devotional service. Sometimes we do devotional service with jnana avratam or karma avratam and so on. So in that case, we may not be removing all our sinful reactions to the extent we can remove it from pure devotional service. Maybe they do get impacted, the reactions do get impacted, but in pure devotional service, we do get, we remove these reactions from the past. So nice question. Thank you, Sunanda Mataji. Thank you very much.
So, Guruji, please explain about Uttama Bhakti again to concise.
Uttama Bhakti, Mataji, just like we discussed in the previous class, Krishna Anushilanam. Like we started from Krishna Anushilanam. So there are two words here, Anushilanam. Okay, let us start with Shilanam. Shilanam means activity. So Bhakti is not simply a sentiment, it's an activity. Then Anushilanam means that activity has to be guided. It is not based on our own whims and fancies. And the guides are the Shastras and the Guru Janas. Then Krishna Anushilanam. It has to be for Krishna. Krishna means either Lord Krishna or his expansions, Lord Ram, Lord Narsimhadev, Varahadev, Vamandev, etc., etc., or people associated with Krishna, the devotees, the Vaishnavas, the Guru Janas. So this is falling under the category of definition of Bhakti. This is primary definition. Activity of, and then Anukolyena Krishna Anushilanam. So Krishna Anushilanam, but Anukolyena. Anukolyena means favorable. It is not that we are engaging with Krishna, we are remembering Krishna, but in a hateful way. So, which is pleasing to Krishna, Anukulyena. Then, the secondary nature of pure bhakti is it should be devoid of jnana and karma. Jnana and karma means, jnana means impersonal liberation, and karma actually means karma kanda. Say, for example, doing some vratas like Karva Chauth vrata, or for the long life of husband, or for doing some maybe Shraddha ceremony for ancestors, and so on. So devotees can do these activities, karma kanda activities he can do, but with the understanding that these are not the ultimate or the absolute activities. These are only to set an example within the society and so on. But he should understand within his heart that Krishna Anushilanam is the major primary activity that I am supposed to do. This all falls under the category of pure bhakti. Like you are doing chanting of Hare Krishna, that is pure bhakti. You are coming directly listening about Krishna, that is pure bhakti. You are offering garland to Krishna, that is pure bhakti. We will discuss pure bhakti later on, sadhana bhakti, bhav bhakti, prema bhakti later on, but that is how we can understand.
Thank you.
Then Vidya Mataji is having a comment. Very difficult, probably to read. Cross references may help. Hare Krishna. Yes, Mataji. When things are difficult, we need to do a little bit our endeavor. We need to also keep our teacher busy with questions and doubts. The teacher doesn't mind in your case to receive your questions and doubts. So please always feel free to call, discuss, write a message, and remove your doubts. Like that we can solve this. So I hope, are there any other comments, any other questions?
Thank you, Prabhuji.
Yes,
Can
ma'am.
I,
Thank you.
can I say something?
Yes, Shiban Prabhu, please.
If I understood you correctly, when we are born,
Hmm.
we come out with our bank account
Yeah.
of our all past actions. One is a saving account, one is a checking account. Saving account stays as it is,
Yeah.
and checking account is the prarabdha karma, which you have to go through regardless of whatever.
Right.
And
right.
then whatever you do in this life, that is for future, for your progeny.
Correct.
That would be called agami karma. What you said today with proper Krishna bhakti, it not only eliminates the prarabdha karma, but it also eliminates or destroys agami karma, which was to beautify later on.
Right, right.
And what you said, I want to ask a question. Does it also destroy the saving account wala?
Yeah, all.
Does
It actually it does the destruction in stages. First of all, phalon mukham. First of all, prarabdha karma destroyed. Then the bijam. Bijam means what is about to become prarabdha karma. Prarabdha, which is about to. Then bijam is destroyed. Then kutam. Kutam means those aprarabdha karmas which have now become some seed, which are about to become seed. So that kutam is also destroyed. Then aprarabdha is also destroyed. Like that.
Sanchit karma is also destroyed.
Generally, punya karma is also destroyed.
Sanchit karma.
These are all sanchit. Sanchit means accumulated.
Accumulated.
Sanchit means accumulated. So
Tabi.
So not only sinful, but also punyas are also destroyed. Because if you do punya, you have to come once again and take birth to take the benefit of the punya.
Finish it, yeah.
So the punya also gone and the papa also gone from bhakti.
Then you said the first is out of ignorance. We begin to desire starts after because of ignorance. Ignorance of what? Ignorance of what? Avidya of what?
Avidya means we don't know. Avidya means, for example, we don't know that the purpose of life is Krishna Bhakti, service to Lord Krishna. And because of that avidya, we continue to do all kind of other nonsense things. If we know that we are Lord's servant and we are supposed to serve Him out of love and devotion, we will not do avidya. But we are engaged in all kind of fruitive activities, materialistic activities, and that's where we create bijam or kutam.
We start with avidya, then leads to desire, desire leads to papam.
Yeah, right. Avidya is because of avidya. Because of avidya, we have material desires. Because of material desires, we do sinful activities. And because we get sinful activities, we do sinful reaction. That is why we suffer. So kleshagni. Kleshagni means it destroys all the kleshas.
So all the three categories, agami,
right,
prarabdha, and sanchit,
all
three categories.
All three. Fully roasted
Bundle
out.
हो जाता है.
Okay, fully roasted out, sir. Like in an incinerator, सब राख हो गया है. जले को राख कहते हैं, बुझे को आग कहते हैं. क्या बोलते हैं? जले को आग कहते हैं, बुझे को राख कहते हैं. जो सर्वनाश कर दे उसे विश्वनाश कहते हैं. So bhakti is that kind of yeah.
तो बाकी क्या बचा? वो तो यही करना चाहिए हमको.
Yeah, so it's a good deal. When you chant the holy name, it's a good deal.
Good. It's on sale.
Yeah, it's on sale. It's on लूट मची है, लूट लो.
प्रभु जी, प्योर भक्ति के लिए शास्त्रों का ज्ञान जरूरी है.
भक्ति का एक अंग है शास्त्रों को पढ़ना.
जी.
भगवान भक्ति का मतलब क्या है? ये जो आप भगवत गीता हाथ में उठाते हैं
जी प्रभु,
और जो श्लोक पर जब आप उंगली फेरते हैं, एक्चुअली यू आर टचिंग कृष्णा. when you are reading,
एक श्लोक है ना, हरेर नाम केवलम कलो नास्त्येव गतिरन्यथा.
हाँ, लेकिन वो हरेर नाम केवलम कलो नास्त्येव गतिरन्यथा, ये रियलाइजेशन, ये अनुभूति होने में बहुत समय लगता है प्रभु.
ये पढ़ के पता चलेगा.
हाँ, और ये अनुभूति होने के लिए हृदय को शुद्ध करना पड़ता है, उसके लिए शास्त्र पढ़ना आवश्यक है।
ये नेक्टर ऑफ डिवोशन की वजह से पूछ रहा हूँ प्रभु जी।
हाँ हाँ, उसी की वजह से जी। ये भक्ति का आपको एक तरीके से आनंद मिलेगा जी।
जी प्रभु जी।
If we leave aside the
Prabhuji?
definitions,
हाँ
if
जी,
we leave
Prabhuji?
aside the definitions, it's not that difficult. It's relatively simple. If we leave aside the definitions.
Yeah, even definitions are not very difficult. Most of them are in Sanskrit, and if people are Hindi speaking, they generally would understand the word. It simply means spend some time with these words. Spend some maybe 15 minutes, 20 minutes, just try to meditate these words, because they are very sweet, cogent, one word. They really fit into your brain and mind if you spend a little time from them. And when we repeat it 5 times, 7 times, few times, then they become yours. It is not very difficult. Yeah.
Prabhuji? Prabhuji?
Yes, Mataji. Yes, Mataji.
I like to take the slides, print the slides. Will you permit?
Yeah, I will share the PDF of the slides after the class. Every class I would share, so you can download from the WhatsApp group. In case you want the major or the, I would say, PPT slide, that slide can also be, that slide also can be made available. I have to upload it because they are a little bit large size, so I have to upload it in a common drive where I can share with the link, and you can download it from there.
Yes, yeah.
Okay.
Because it is a bit difficult. I have to read it once more.
Sure. The names might sound a little alien or unfamiliar.
It is not alien. It is unfamiliar.
It is unfamiliar. Yeah, it is unfamiliar. So once you spend little time, maybe 15-20 minutes, half an hour, you will gain that taste and gain that familiarity with the words, and the concepts.
कुछ बंगाली accent.
Perhaps the word anusandhan might be appropriate. Anusandhan.
Yeah.
You have to soak in it. Soak in it.
Yeah. Yes, Rakesh ji, आप कुछ कह रहे थे?
अगर तो प्रभु जी बंगाली एक्सेंट है ना संस्कृत में?
नहीं, बंगाली नहीं है. This is pure Sanskrit. This is not Bengali.
अच्छा. Pure
This is not Bengali. हाँ, रूप गोस्वामी ने संस्कृत में लिखा है. जीव गोस्वामी ने भी संस्कृत में टीका लिखा है. उनका सब संस्कृत में है. उसका इंग्लिश ट्रांसलेशन भानु महाराज की कृपा से आज आप पढ़ सकते हैं, आनंद ले सकते हैं पुस्तकों का. बहुत अच्छी पुस्तक है, बहुत सुंदर तरीके से लिखी गई, बड़ी सिस्टमैटिक है. बड़ा अच्छे से उन्होंने एक बात कही है, उसके बाद शास्त्रों से कोट किया है. आपको गहराई में जाना हो तो आप उन चीजों को अलग अलग पुस्तकों में उनके साथ समय बिताइए, उसके साथ थोड़ा गहराई में जाइए तो आपको और अच्छा लगेगा, आपको और मजा आएगा. जी.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji, one last.
Yes. हाँ, बताइए प्रभु जी.
I have really enjoyed the class and the discussion as well. Thank you very much, everybody.
Okay, sir. Okay, ji. Thank you, ji.
We must thank you. Thank you for having make it very simple as we can.
Yeah. That's the job of a teacher. So I'm happy to see that you are finding it some benefit, some usefulness. I'm very happy, satisfied. Thank you very much for your feedback. Yeah.
Thank you, Prabhu. Today was very nice. Thank you.
Okay, Manish जी. हाँ, मैं आपसे पूछना भूल गया. आज का कुछ लगा होगा कि भाई हाँ reachable है गिरफ्त.
Yeah, very nice. आज का table definitions were very clear.
हाँ जी. आप वो गाइड खरीद लेंगे ना, वो गाइड जो मैं दिखा रहा था आपको.
Yes. Correct.
वो गाइड से आपको और आसानी हो जाएगा.
Okay, Prabhu. Okay. Thank you.
Okay जी. Thank you.
Thank you, Prabhu.
Thank you.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna ji. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna.